Hey, welcome in, guys. It's Jean, and I am your host. Welcome into this podcast of episode 5. If you're seeing me, then you're seeing me on YouTube, and it's authentically unapologetic. If you're hearing me and listening to me, then while not quite yet, you can hear this podcast on Apple and on Spotify, but you won't hear the first 10 minutes of it because if you're following me, then you know that I kind of chit chat before I hit that record button. So that's the purpose of this. So, what do we got going on today or of this episode? In this episode, as you saw in the beginning, you saw the first, the second, and I believe the fourth amendment. We're going to get into it. And the name of this episode is Apocalypse in Waco, episode 5. This episode took me longer than I wanted to. It wasn't just life that hit; it was just the whole entirety of the thing, right? Especially what I'm trying to say, because by now a lot of you might have already know about Waco, and you might probably saw tons of documentaries and seen a bunch of different things and heard a bunch of different things. If you're older like me and born in '81, then you were roughly 11, 12 years old when this happened, and all you saw was a huge building on fire and a lot of police officers. It looked like a war zone. Um, it looked like the apocalypse. So, yeah, we're going to get into why that happened and why it matters, and also because our government was involved in this one. And to be real, I'll probably repeat this once I hit the record button, but I want to show you guys the last time that we saw a catastrophic event, if not the first time that we saw a catastrophic event happen on American soil that was done by our own people, and it has to do with religion. Prior to that, there was probably multiple things that happened unaliving, when it comes to religion, but not on this scale because a lot of people died. Um, very few survived. And there are those survivor stories that, you might, I'm waving because my neighbor's walking by. Um, you might just hear about it. But the thing is that I think now we're so desensitized to things that have happened. I grew up in 9/11 era, I ended up married in a war because of it. Um, but in the early 90s, a lot of things happened in the early 90s. In the last few episodes, I had gotten into Michelle Remembers and, the start of the Satanic Panic. And, but there was a lot of things that even I didn't realize until I did a lot more research. And I was so young in the 90s that I don't remember the political side of the shit. I'll get into some stories of what I do remember of that political side of things that dealt with religion. Um, and in this one, it didn't need to happen. Waco didn't need to happen. Um, we have laws in place to prevent things like this happening, especially again. At that time, there was a political change between President George Bush the first, or the first, whatever, and then Bill Clinton. So it switched from Republican, which he was had a lot of play, so did Barbara Bush, when it came to Satanic Panic. They had a lot of things happening in their cabinet, and one of them, I can't remember, I think it was before the 80s, I'm pretty sure. It may have been the 60s when it started, but the Heritage Foundation was very strong in the early 80s. That's just one piece of political stuff, because now we're going to get into political things because it deals with politics and laws and how we go about things. Previously, when I talked about the McMartin case and stuff like that, I told you that laws were put in place for children. Well, in this case, laws were put in place for people who, like automatic rifles were taken off the shelf after this. A lot of unnecessary protocols that they shouldn't have done, or things that they should have done, they learned. This also catastrophic event in Waco also created or helped push forward the Oklahoma bombing. because I can't remember his name at this moment. My brain is only so big that it remembers things, so I write everything down. But the man, one of the men, because there was two, but one of the main men for the Oklahoma bombing saw what had happened because he was watching, like shit, most of America was watching. Not only was it televised, because this took 51 days to go through all of this, but he happened to be watching. And in a very anarchist kind of way, he decided to do what he did. It wasn't the whole reason, but there, when when authorities spoke to him, it came up and he spoke about it. And he didn't think it was okay. He thought it was pretty messed up the way that they charged in and they did things. And I have to kind of agree. It was really messed up. Especially in 2026, we see people entering homes when they shouldn't be entering homes for not, a lot of times they don't have warrants and everything else. Well, it's been switched in 2026. The people that were very much on David Koresh's side, aside from the religious part, aside from thinking he was, the second coming of Jesus, gun crazed people, yeah, sorry, not sorry. Again, this podcast is unapologetic and I'm saying authentically myself. So, and that's just how I feel. So I need to hit play. Don't laugh at me, guys, because this is my little makeshift microphone for the. I know you guys can't see it, or, well, not yet, but this is my little guy. Okay, so here we go. So hopefully y'all can hear me, because it's been an issue. All right, let's get in here. Here we go. Hey, 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 welcome in, welcome in. This is Jean, and I am your host. Welcome to my podcast here on Spotify. So yeah, this is the apocalypse in Waco. Now, why am I correlating these two together? For a few reasons, but for those out there that have seen or lived through Waco, then welcome in. Thank you for listening, first of all. And second of all, if you've never heard of it, then you'll be in for a treat. Jump on YouTube or jump on Netflix or, hear the rest of this podcast out because it was a wild one and it shouldn't be forgotten either. It was the first time that on American soil, the level of people that died for no reason. Well, there was a lot of reasons, but in the name of apocalypse. Now, why do I keep saying that? Because if you don't know what these people were, then they were the Branch Davidian, which is a branch of the Seven-Day Evangelists, I believe, and they're an apocalyptic religion. I don't want to call the Branch Davidsons a cult, but the way, David Koresh kind of turned it into what he turned it into a cult. I'm just for sake of saying it was a cult. Now, before I get into all of that, for those that can't see this podcast here on YouTube, the opening to this is the amendments: the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, and the Third Amendment. And I'm going to read those for those that are listening and might not remember what they are. Shit, coming from, a Catholic school, I don't ever remember them teaching me, but I was not a very good, student. So that's my reasons why I don't remember them on a personal level. But before I say it, for those watching, I've done this a couple times, so I don't know if I showed you, but I think everybody out there should have this thing. It is the Constitution of the United States, and it's the full Constitution of the United States and the Declaration of Independence. And yeah, I think all of us now, Americans, should have this in our pockets for reference or to memorize or even to show anybody in the moment that may not happen to know it. And what is the First Amendment, you may ask? The First Amendment is the Congress, or not the Congress, Congress shall not make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise therefore or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peacefully to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Second Amendment, a well regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people and to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Gun owners, sorry, I can't even say it right. Gun owners, you fucking love that amendment. If you know, you know. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their person's house, papers, and effects or their, belongings against unreasonable search and siege shall not be violated, or no warrant shall be issued, but upon, I gotta turn page, without probable cause, supported by the oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be sieged and the person or things to be seized. Basically, you need a warrant. Now, why are those so important? Well, I think hearing them tells you all you really need to know. But the reason why it's so important now is because, well, these amendments have been around for a long time, and it plays in this case, or I should say, circumstance. This particular circumstance, it was incredibly necessary and needed because the ATF caught wind eventually that David Koresh and his people had lots and lots and lots of guns. They had bombs, they had AK-47s, they had it all. They had an army or preparation for an army. And they fought back. But what happened is that they caught wind, and as they were trying to find the place, because this is way out in Texas, right? Or in Waco, Texas, outside of Waco, Texas, in Mount Carmel. It's a lot of land. Especially back in the early 90s. Um, yeah, it was just this beautiful commune, basically, in my opinion. Um, Now, David Koresh started to have massive psychosis. And now we finally can get into delusion, psychosis of religion. He's a really good example. His delusions, now, when he was fairly young, like younger, he started to get these grand delusions about how he was lost, okay? Now, this is why he's relatable. And if you remember when I was talking about Hillsong, people need relatable. They just do. They need shit that makes them feel like they're a part of something. So, and if they don't, they go looking for purpose. And that's what David Koresh did. He went on a journey and he eventually even went to Israel. And it was in Israel that he believed he had full blown psychosis, started having visions of God or someone, I believe it was God, started telling him what he needed to do. And it is there where he discovers, quote unquote, discovers that he is the second coming of God. And that he needs to save as many people possible, basically, and before this end time. He got this ideology. He basically stole this fucking religion. He stole Mount Carmel from a couple. Um, I can't remember their names at this moment. At this point, actually, I don't think you guys really care. But they were the original Branch Davidians. Is it Davidians or Davisons? I think it's Davisons. Might be Davidian. Anyways, this married couple had their own preaching thing going on here. David Koresh finds himself in Waco in Mount Carmel, and yeah, after the main preacher declared that God would be coming, the end times are here, they're here, and they'll be on this date, and guess what? It didn't fucking happen, because it never does. People have been talking about end times since shit. I'm a lover of medieval things since I was a kid, and people holding up signs. A lot of Protestants holding up that sign, end times, because that's sure shit, not Catholics. Um, Sorry, but it's true. Um, you see it in movies sometimes. I've even brought this up. You see it sometimes that people, oh, the times are here, save your soul. That's all of their shebang is to save your soul. And from this and from that, and so it's basically what happened. He ended up taking over. And what's really gross is that he wasn't even that old. I mean, he was a man, but he wasn't like 50, right? This woman who lost her husband, she was like 60. Everybody was shocked that these two even had a relationship, but he found his in. And that's what these people do. They find a way in. They look for a vulnerable place. They find a way in. My opinion, it's self-centered because all they're thinking about is themselves. It's not selfish. It's personal gain. What can I gain from you? What can I take from you? What can I accomplish through you? And in my opinion, I think he really thought, hey, you know what? I get an entire congregation and an entire commune, basically. And yeah, he took over. She eventually died because she was old. And now he had this whole entire congregation. Now, I think I mentioned, I'm not going to get into the crazy, crazy nitty gritty of these details because it's wild. And I don't have that much time, to be honest. Now, oh, sorry guys. If you're watching me, you can see me. I'm moving stuff around because I'm kind of, my legs are locking. Okay, so I'm going to read you guys my notes. Why was, or yeah, let me start from the beginning. What was it? What was this? What was Waco? What was Waco Siege? It was a 51-day standoff. 51 days, okay, that these people were in their compound, and David Koresh just didn't want to give up. He didn't want to give in. You know, it's kind of like, well, if I can't have them, no one can kind of situation. But anyways, I'm going to keep going. Now, this happened on February 28th, 1993 in Mount Carmel Center, right outside of Waco, Texas. Why was there a siege? It was because federal law enforcement, not local, federal law enforcement and the Branch Davidian religion sect, like I said, had gotten wind of stockpiling. Basically, they were stockpiling all their fucking weapons. They ended up raiding it, and how it raided, and I am going to jump around, so hopefully you guys can follow my train of thought. They were driving down this massive road, as I was saying, and one of their members was in a car or truck or whatever, and they got lost. The ATF got lost in trying to find this compound. So they geniusly, that's sarcasm, decided to stop a person that was driving by and ask him where it was. And they're obviously have all of their gear, so it's very obvious that they're the ATF, you know? So this person turned their truck around, and went back to the compound and let them have it. Hey, you're about to be raided. And in that member's mind, or that person that went back and told David Koresh, you know, David Koresh was already in full blown fucking psychosis by this point. That, the greater delusion just turned completely psychotic, schizophrenic, drug induced hallucinations and paranoia, just like Jim Jones. And he was like, fuck it, here we are. Start the apocalypse. Basically, they're not going to take my guns. They're not going to, so unwillingly to even have a conversation, they never came out of their compound at that time. So there was a standoff. I'm just going to keep going. The FBI eventually got involved in this because since nobody's coming out of this compound, it started to turn into a hostage situation because there's a lot of members in this compound. And I'm talking a lot of women, a lot of children, and a lot of men, but more so women and children. Yes. So I have a timeline. This is so long in the making. I don't even remember my notes. All right, February 28th, 1993, the ATF raided the compound, leading to a deadly gun battle. So I can't remember if they had a warrant or not. I believe they did not. They did not have a warrant. On March 1st, remember this was February 28th when this started, when they tried to raid it. By March 1st to April 18th in 1993, prolonged FBI led standoff and negotiations as some adults and children were released. However, many still remained inside. So there was a lot of conversations on the phone. David Koresh they were able to call inside of the compound, just like shit you see in movies, the hostage situation, standoff, and they would talk a lot. And, Koresh would just go off on these long fucking tangents of how, they're good people, and which I don't doubt that they weren't, but he was not a good person for what he did to these people. But yeah, just ranting, ranting about taking my guns and the apocalypse and blah blah blah. So they eventually were able to talk him into allowing some people to go. So that's how there are some survivors. Give me 2 seconds. I gotta move this thing behind me. Sorry, guys that are listening. I do these episodes from home and on my bed because of my space. I have roommates. I live with people, so my legs get a little tight sitting on this bed. Anyways, sorry for that little pause of interruption. But yeah, so this hostage situation, it just was nuts. A lot of the children were let go, but there was a lot of children that weren't. 76 members initially lost their lives. 4 federal agents were killed in this as well. And that is insane to me. God rest those souls for the federal agents, but at the same time, I think by day 2, if anything, they knew they fucked up. They knew they made a lot of mistakes, and it just got worse and worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. The compound burnt down because flare guns, some sort of flare guns or whatever, or tear gas, I think it may have been tear gas, was thrown into the home, which started the fire, which initially is what killed those 76 people. So that is what people walk away from, and that's what they walk away remembering. They don't remember how those 76 people even got there. A lot of people, depending on who you talk to, might say, oh, well, good riddance, da 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 da. It's fucked up, in my opinion, because they were just people trying to be happy and love God. But some crazy sexaholic, drug addict, narcissist made them believe that, they were safe with him. And it's farthest from the truth. They were definitely not safe. But it's wild because these types of leaders, they have this charismatic, relatable thing about them that makes these people throw all reason to the wind and, touches some form of delusion that we all have. Now, this is opinion, because again, I'll say I don't have any degrees in psychology, I can't diagnose or any of that nature, but I can say, from my opinion, that's we all have a delusion. We all have a dream. And some people may say that dreams are delusions, that they'll never happen. They're not, or they stop becoming delusions the moment they become a goal. And what makes them harmful is if those goals are harming people and you're not touch with reality. You have lost your full fucking touch of reality, that you can't, as they say now, that these people need to touch some serious grass, or go camping or hug a tree or something, because they've completely lost all touch with reality. That's psychosis. When you hear vision, or when you hear voices, a lot of times too, people who hear these types of delusions, I guess, when they hear them, that when they go into that psychosis, it's usually related to schizophrenia or bipolar 1 and bipolar 2. Do you know how many people out there are fucking schizophrenic and bipolar 1 and bipolar 2? And Lord knows, please do not be offended by me saying that, because so much love. I know quite a few people who are bipolar, and some of you are some of the strongest people I know. But when you go into harming people, that's when it becomes a serious fucking problem. And that's what these grand leaders do. I'm trying to introduce to y'all by saying, we could be in a happy delusion. Okay. It's possible. We're happy. And in my personal opinion, that's what fake positivity looks like, is you convince yourself so much with this positivity, and that, pushing all negativity away, it can go into a full blown fucking delusion and psychosis, because any psychologist will tell you, you need these bad things. Everything's balanced. You need bad and you need good. In the form of religion, when it starts to get bad, that, in my opinion, you don't roll with it. That's when you realize, oh shit, I'm not in a good situation. And unfortunately for these members, the Branch Davidians, I think it's Davidians, I'm saying it, they weren't trying to go in for that end goal. They weren't trying to, they believed the end times, which in my opinion is that delusion. But when you take it a step further and you're actually making those fucking steps for this end times that's coming, and David Koresh is not the only one. There's hundreds of apocalyptical cults out there. I mean, you can get to the weird side of, I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was in the 80s or the 90s, where the UFO apocalyptical cult, they all unalive themselves because they believed that that was the end times and they were going home. There's so many out there. That's why it's so important for mental health. Because if you're not in a right good place, religion is a good place to soothe your soul and to find purpose and to find reason. But when you get so obsessed and you get up those obsessive thoughts, and then if you're at all a person who does drugs or drinks alcohol, you add those things, the next thing you know, you're in a cult like this. And David Koresh was an alcoholic. He also did drugs. He was very manipulative. He was a sex addict. He was a PDFer. He convinced his members that they needed to give up their wives to him, because only Jesus Christ, or the Messiah, in which he believed he was only allowed to have access to their wives. So, and that means all of them. That does, if you start your period at 11 years old, guess what? It's just like Mormons are the same way with taking wives. So yeah, he was PDFer, my eyes. He not only was the Son of God, he was the last one that the world was over. And in many ways, also, opinion, this is manifestation. He manifested this shit. he had it like in people call it manifestation. It's part of psychology. It's almost like when you're really sick in the mind and actually my brain just took overrode that thought to when you get it's gone. Sorry. That's my brain. Um yeah. He wouldn't even let them sleep half the time, so insomnia was a factor. Um basically what they were allowed to eat. He was a control freak of every fucking thing, down to what I just said: sleeping, eating, who they were allowed to talk to, where they were allowed to work. These things are so extreme, but when you've been abused and conditioned and told and you don't know what's going on in the outside world, it's very easy for our brains to believe it because they have you conditioned to believe nobody else but them because they're the true Messiah and you shouldn't believe any other God or messiahs or whatever other than them. So, yeah, they brought on their own apocalypse. That's what I was talking about, manifestation. Basically, he brought it upon his fucking self. He created this whole thing from the beginning to the end. So we can sit there and blame the ATF and we can blame the FBI, which positive things did come from that. But in the end, when you get crazy people, guns, no background checks, any of that sort, and they know that they're stockpiling, I mean, come on, that's a red flag. It's unnecessary. Why should you, if you are not the government, why should you have that much shit? What do you need bombs for? Pin bombs. I don't know what they're called when you pull the pin and you throw them. Grenades. Oh my God. They had grenades. They had all kinds of shit. Look it up, please. Um, Now, this thing with the apocalypse and the Branch Davidians, Davisons, whatever, they're not the only one. Like I said, we are currently experiencing in 2026 a bunch of people who want to bring upon the fucking apocalypse. I said it. Yep. Um, they think the end times are here. I've heard that, they've anointed our president as a messiah. They have, yeah, there's so much that eventually I'll get into all of that. But yeah, guys, it's real. The positive side, what I was going to bring up, laws came after this. You are no longer. You ever wonder why you can't carry an AK-47 or an assault rifle? Here you go. Laws in I think 93 or 93 to 96 because it took a while because this Waco went under a huge investigation along with every living FBI member and ATF member that was involved in this. Um, and then a year later, we had the Oklahoma bombing here on our own soil. That was the first terrorist attack that happened on our own soil that was done by our own people. And there was two involved. I can't remember the guy's name, but he was there watching the flames in the compound burn at Waco. And he's even said on the record he did get the death penalty for the Oklahoma bombing for what he should have, rightfully so. And I'm a humanitarian, and I'm all like, yeah, that man deserved to die. Um, he mentioned the unfairness of the government in dealing with our guns. That's my own quote in my own memory. But I wanted to mention Oklahoma bombing because is it Leary? The name of him is starting to pop back up because I was young and I remember when it happened, just like Waco. I watched it on television, and as a matter of fact, I remember little kids running when they were doing the hostage exchange and they were letting people go. I remember a few children and moms able to escape. But I digress as I always do. Sorry, guys. Oh, laws and stuff were changed and created. And one of those ones is what we know now, why you can't own an assault rifle. Because there's no fucking reason to have one. We haven't had a war on our soil since the Civil War. So what are we doing? What's the point? I get it. I get it. I get it. You should be able to protect yourself. You should be able to make sure that your family is protected. But guess what, guys? In each and every state, they have their own laws of what you're allowed to do in the moment of intrusion when somebody's trying to come into your house. One state, you can protect yourself and you take that person out and you have no murder charges. Other states, guess what? You could go to jail for murder, even though you were protecting your property and your home. And so it varies from state to state. Now, people will argue, all of you gun people out there will argue this fact. As a matter of fact, it's a constant conversation in our Congress, in our government, with gun laws and everything else, and as they should be. I don't remember school shootings in the 80s. Just saying. Yeah, so that was, again, I digressed and went somewhere else, but I'm about to wrap up this here for episode 5. What's coming here soon is I'm going to keep this going, this apocalyptical thing, because I wanted to show you guys a little bit of the lead up into what old school Christian nationalism looked like. Yes, I said it, because what is Christian nationalism? It's Christians who are basically all about our nation, right? Except for David Koresh wasn't necessarily like pro America and all that other stuff, but he was when it came to his guns and it came to his little arsenal. So that's just a taste. That's a taste, because it looks very similar. And I'm going to lead you into it. Until then, I might show you or talk about a few other cults that were just completely fascinating to me and should be talked about. But Waco is the biggest one. And going into the 6th episode, I'm going to recap and I'm going to talk a little bit more about it, because some of his sermons were insane. And they're all recorded. This dude recorded, David Koresh recorded everything. How they obtained them, I don't remember. But yeah, it's some pretty sick shit. And it's got to stop. It's got to stop. This episode is not 100% what I wanted to make it, but this is not the last I'm going to talk about Waco. But initially, I wanted to tell you that there are a lot of apocalyptical cults out there, and this is just one. And this was before laws and everything were put in place. And I hope that it doesn't happen again, because in 2026, we're having people unlawfully kick a door down, basically ruining the whole reason why we have this fucking amendment. Unlawful search and siege, not having a warrant coming into your home. And guess what? It's fucked up, and I don't think it should be okay. I've lost and cut friendship and families over this because I am completely against what the fuck they're doing. And these people don't get it, why it's so not okay that these government agents are kicking doors in. If we survive this in 5 years, I can't wait to see all the fucking laws that come out of this once we're able to push things through, because of having ideology or a mind state like that. It's completely against the law. So those out there that were upset about Waco in my generation, where are you now? Where are you? Where are you to say how bad this is and the government shouldn't be doing this and the government? It's because now they're on the other side. Yep, they're on the other side. And I can't remember if I recorded this or not, because I did do a couple of these videos. Um, wow, I don't think I'm supposed to say it because now I forgot the train of thought. So that's my cue. I'm going to wrap it up. And I hope you guys are watching. And thanks for listening. And so much love out there. And just remember to stay you no matter what, no matter how it looks like, or what it looks like, or how it looks. Just be yourself, authentically unapologetic, always, guys. And yeah, join me for episode 6, which should be coming up here a lot more sooner because I'm just going right after this. Okay. I love y'all. And thanks again. Cheers.